Hi y'all, and welcome back to the Paul Chandler Show. I'm your host, Paul Chandler. In tonight's episode, we're going to learn about Mohs surgery, but we're going to learn about the coding side of it. Because Mohs surgery, it only has 5 different procedure codes that we use. However, there's some terminology that we only see with this procedure. So I'll be putting an awesome grid, and then that way you can write it in your notes in your coding book. You can use it no matter if you're coding Mohs surgery for real world or preparing for an exam. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. When coding Mohs surgery, we have 5 CPT codes that we're working with. However, though, there's new documentation and as far as verbiage that we'd see. So when we're dealing with Mohs surgery, so in integumentary system, going down the levels of the layers of skin, we're not referring to, for example, epidermis, dermis, subcutaneous tissue. Instead, we're using the phrase stages. So a stage is a layer of skin that's removed. So one stage, one layer is removed. Second stage, another layer is removed after that. And then we also have the term blocks. So when we're removing the skin, we're not dealing with square centimeters and type of measurement. What the provider does is they take a big chunk of skin off, put it on the table, and depending on where you're from, in the Midwest, we call it, or I should say they, I'm flirting now. So they call it IMOS, I-M-O-S pizza, or in New England area, they call it Sicilian pizza. So whichever one you know the name of it as, what they do is they take the skin, and they cut into square pieces, just like how square pizza is. So if you never want to have square pizza again, you're welcome. Or, I'm sorry, depending how you look at it. But that's how we do it. So each square that is cut, that's what we call a block. So we're not dealing with square centimeters again, just how many blocks. So we only got, again, 5 codes and that's it. 17.311 through 17.315. And in those different parts, what I'm going to be doing is go on the board. Because as far as the 5 different codes that we have 3 different options. We have, as far as the parent codes, 17.311 and 17.313, based on the different locations. And at the end of each code, 17.311 and 17.313, tells us the locations that are in that group. That is used for the first stage of the Mohs surgery, 1 through 5 blocks. So the first 5 blocks of each stage. And then we have the add-on codes 17.312 and 17.314. That is for each additional stage. So I'll do ADD period for additional stage. The same as 1 through 5 blocks. And remembering that in the CPT book, every add-on code, at the end of it will say in parentheses, use this code in conjunction with that code. So use this add-on code in conjunction with that code. So in the CPT book, it says that we can use 17.312 with 17.311 and 17.314 with 17.313. Now even though the descriptions for 17.312 and 14, those 2 add-on codes are the same, we still cannot interchange them. That's why I used in the grid here, kind of explaining 17.311 can go into 17.312 for the additional stage, so that we remove one layer, 17.311, go down, remove another layer, 17.312. Or 17.313, different locations, links for the first stage to 17.314, the second layer that's being removed. Then we have the one add-on code by itself at the end, 17.315. And how that is for each additional block. So as in the additional blocks after the first 5. So while the codes with those stages on them, 17 through 11, 12, 13, and 14, cover up to 1 through 5 of the first blocks. If we need over 5, larger size, then we use 17.315. Now notice though that can be used on any one of the sets. So there's not a separate add-on code for the first location set, each additional block after the first 5, and a separate add-on code. 17.315 can go with either set. So what I do then is I draw a line connecting both 17.3.12 and 14 to that one add-on code, 17.3.15. The last notation I make, and then we'll do an example here in a moment, is next to code 17.3.15 in the CPT book, I wrote the note in my book that says always use last if needed. Always use last if needed, because this is one of the few instances in the CPT book where we have possibly I should say, up to two different sets of add-on codes. So putting it all together for an example, let's say we're doing a Mohs surgery on the forehead, and let's make it a two-stage procedure where the first stage that we have, I'll do a double line here. So below the double line, this will be the example that we're going to do. Let's say a two-stage procedure where the first stage, is 7 tissue blocks, and the second stage, let's make that 2 tissue blocks. So that's how I do it, is I make the note off to the side. For example, 1S, 7B, 2S, 2B. That tells me that my first stage is 7 blocks and my second stage is 2 blocks. Because when we're coding for Mohs surgery, we keep the stages separately initially when we're coding them. So to keep them separate, I'm just going to draw an orange line kind of going across so we can keep the code separate. So starting out, first stage up to 7 blocks. So let's say if it's on the forehead, that would make my code 17.3.11 as the first code. And now 17.3.11 only covers blocks 1 through 5, but I need 7. So then, because I only got 1 through 5, I need 2 more. Then I'll use the add-on code 17.3.15, and I'll do that times 2 for 2 units. So then while again the parent code 17.3.11 covers up to the first 5, 17.3.15 is each additional 1. So 17.3.15, 1 unit would be block number 6, but 2 units would be block number 7. So altogether, on my first stage, I have my 7 blocks, blocks 1 through 5, and then 6 and 7. And then keeping then the stages separate, next I have my second stage, 2 blocks. So because I used the parent code 17.3.11 for the first code, I have to use 17.3.12 for the add-on, for my second stage. So 17.3.12, and that covers up to 5 tissue blocks, and I only need 2. And that's it. So part of the reason to remember why we want to keep the stages separate when we're initially coding them is we have altogether 9 blocks. 7 plus 2 equals 9. But by keeping them separate, yes, 7 and 2 equals 9. But so look at the first stage, I needed 2 more than my 5. So I needed 7. But the second stage, I have 3 extra, if you will, kind of 3 freebies with that 17.3.12. So by keeping them separate, I do not take, because true, yes, 7 plus 2 equals 9. I have 9 blocks altogether. I don't move the 2 extra that I need to code for out of the 7. I don't move those 2 extra down to the second stage, because I had 3 of them tossing away here, if you will. I could go up to 5, but I only need 2. So think of it as, yes, 7 plus 2 equals 9. If I move the numbers around, then yes, 5 plus 4 equals 9, but in this case, 9 doesn't equal 9. So I want to keep the stages separate, because then when I'm coding it now all together, now I can put everything together. So I have an add-on code in 17.3.12 and an add-on code in 17.3.15. So I have one non-add-on code. That would make the 17.3.11. That code has to go first. And then my 17.3.12 add-on code goes second. And then because I wrote the note by that add-on block, 17.3.15, that always use last if needed, that would make then my last code 17.3.15 times 2. Since again I have the 2 units for block number 6 and block number 7. And remember, I would not be using modifier 51 nor 59 on 17.3.12 nor 17.3.15 because of those are both add-on codes. And we never use those 2 modifiers with add-on codes. So coming up here all together, I have my 2 stages. First stage is 7 blocks, second stage is 2 blocks. The final code, 17.3.11, 17,312, and 17,315 times 2. And next, I do recommend, if you like to, in your coding manual, put the little chart up on top, so that way this creates a nice little segue. If this is our first parent code that we have, then if we need additional add-on code, what would that add-on code be for additional stage? And then rounding it up with additional block code 17 through 15. And you can also feel free to write this example in your coding manual as well, so if you need help a little bit later, you kind of plug in some numbers. So thank you for watching this episode of the Paul Chandler Show and how to code Mohs surgery, and have an awesome rest of your night. If you like this video and want to see more, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's so easy. It's right there. A little button. Just push it. Subscribe. I got all night. Nothing else to do. Just subscribe.